My brother smirked. This should teach you a lesson after spray painting my wall, because I said no to his kids. So I took multiple pictures of what he did and said this should save the police a lot of time. I never thought I'd be writing one of these posts, but here I am sitting in what used to be my sanctuary trying to process how my own family systematically dismantled something I'd spent years building. My name is Michael, I'm 30 years old, and this is the story of how my brother Christopher orchestrated the hostile takeover of my home theater room. Original post. I need to get this off my chest because I'm about to lose my mind. I own a house. Bought it 3 years ago after saving for nearly a decade. One of the main reasons I chose this particular property was the perfect bonus room above the garage. From day one, I had a vision. Transform it into the ultimate home theater. I'm not talking about throwing a TV on the wall and calling it a day. I spent 2 years researching, planning, and slowly acquiring the right equipment. We're talking about a proper 7.2.4 at most setup with acoustic panels, automated blackout curtains, theater seating for 8 people, and a 120-inch projection screen. The projector alone cost me $3,500. A Sony VIPE LVW295ES that delivers true 4K. Every speaker was carefully chosen and positioned. I ran all the wiring myself, installed bass traps in the corners, and even had an electrician add a dedicated circuit to handle the power requirements. All in, I invested close to $25,000 in this room. It wasn't frivolous spending. I budgeted carefully, bought items on sale, and did most of the installation work myself. This room represents years of planning and sacrifice. My brother Christopher is 28, married to Jennifer, and they have 3 kids, Tyler 6, Ashley 4, and little Nathan 2. They live about 20 minutes away in a rental house. Chris works in sales and does okay, but with 3 kids and Jennifer staying home, money is tight. They've been talking about buying a house but haven't been able to save enough for a down payment. Here's where the conflict starts. Last month, during a family dinner at my place, Chris brought the kids over. They'd been in my theater room before, always supervised, always careful. But this time was different. As we were watching a Disney movie at a reasonable volume with the subwoofers dialed way back, Chris made a comment that set my teeth on edge. "You know, Michael, this room is really wasted on you," he said, gesturing around the space. "You're single. You work long hours. How often do you really use all this?" I explained that I use it several times a week. After stressful days at my job as a software engineer, I come home and lose myself in movies. On weekends, I have friends over for movie nights. During football season, this room becomes command central. It's not just about watching. It's about the experience, the escape, the joy of seeing and hearing stories the way filmmakers intended. But it's just Netflix and stuff, right? Chris continued, clearly not getting it. I mean, the kids would absolutely love this space. Imagine how perfect it would be as a playroom. All this room for activities, toys, maybe a little stage for dress-up shows. Tyler's really into superheroes right now, and Ashley loves to dance. I thought he was joking. He wasn't. "Chris, I built this room specifically as a theater. Every element is designed for optimal viewing and listening. It's not a playroom." That's when our mother Patricia chimed in. "Well, Michael, he does have a point. You spent all this money on what's essentially adult toys. Don't you think family should come first? The children could get so much use out of this space." Adult toys. She called my carefully crafted theater system adult toys. Our father James nodded along. "When you have kids of your own, you'll understand. Everything changes. Priorities shift. Maybe you could set up a TV in your living room and let the kids have this space when they visit. Which by the way is maybe once a month for Sunday dinner." I kept my cool, but inside I was seething. I explained that this wasn't just about entertainment. This room represents my passion, my hobby, my personal achievement. I offered to set up a play area in my finished basement, but apparently that wasn't good enough. "The basement doesn't have the same natural light," Jennifer added. "And it's so far from the kitchen when I need to check on them in my house during their occasional visits." The discussion ended with me firmly but politely stating that the theater room would remain a theater room. Chris looked frustrated. Mom gave me the disappointed look she's perfected over 30 years of motherhood. And Dad muttered something about young people these days. But here's what's really bothering me: the entitlement. The assumption that because I'm single and childless, my interests and investments are somehow less valid, that I should redesign my home to accommodate my brother's kids during their infrequent visits. I love my nephews and niece. I'm the uncle who buys the cool presents and takes them for ice cream. But that doesn't mean I need to sacrifice my personal space for them. Am I being unreasonable here? Because my family is making me feel like I'm the selfish one for wanting to keep my own room the way I designed it. Update 1. 2 weeks later. I wasn't going to update this, but things have escalated in ways I never imagined. Remember how I thought the discussion was over? Yeah, about that. Last Sunday, the family came over for dinner again. I was in the kitchen helping Mom with the food when I heard footsteps above me in the theater room. Multiple sets of footsteps and giggles, children's giggles. I excused myself and headed upstairs to find Chris in my theater room with all 3 kids. Tyler was climbing on my theater seats. Ashley was spinning in circles in the space between the seats and the screen, and Nathan was reaching for my center channel speaker with sticky hands. "Chris, what the hell? Relax, Michael. I'm watching them. I just wanted to show them the space again. You know, get them familiar with it. Familiar with it. This isn't their playroom, Chris. We discussed this. I know, but look how happy they are. Tyler, show Uncle Michael your superhero move. Tyler proceeded to jump from one theater seat to another. My $500 per seat theater recliners being used as a jungle gym. Everybody out. No, Chris looked offended. Seriously, they're just kids. Michael, you're being ridiculous. I spent the rest of the dinner in a foul mood. Mom kept making passive-aggressive comments about how tense I seemed and how I needed to lighten up around the children. Dad just avoided eye contact. But that wasn't the worst part. 3 days later, I came home from work to find a package on my doorstep. Not unusual, except I hadn't ordered anything. Inside was a set of corner protectors and outlet covers, the kind you use to baby-proof a house. The gift receipt showed it was from Chris and Jennifer. The note read, "For the theater room just in case. C and J, just in case of what their kids don't live here." I texted Chris immediately. His response, "Just thinking ahead, you know Mom and Dad are right. Family comes first. The kids talk about your movie room all the time. It would mean so much to them to spend more time in there." I didn't respond. What was there to say? Then came this past weekend. I was traveling for work, a conference in Seattle. I'd mentioned it to the family because Mom usually likes to know when I'm out of town. I gave my neighbor Robert a key to water my plants and keep an eye on things. When I got home Sunday night, something felt off the moment I walked in. Nothing obvious, just that feeling when things have been disturbed. I checked the theater room and my blood ran cold. My equipment had been rearranged. The center channel speaker had been moved to a high shelf. My subwoofers were unplugged and pushed against the wall. The universal remote that controls the entire system was nowhere to be found. And there were toys, actual toys, in a basket in the corner of the room. A basket that didn't belong to me. But the real kicker, a piece of paper taped to my projector screen. My pristine $400 projector screen with crayon drawings. It was a stick figure family with labels Uncle Mike, Tyler, Ashley, Nathan, and a big heart. I immediately called Chris. His casual response made my blood boil. "Oh yeah, we stopped by Saturday to check on your place. Mom gave us her spare key. The kids really wanted to see the movie room again. And Jennifer thought it would be good to do some basic child-proofing, you know, for safety. You moved my equipment, you let them tape things to my screen. It's just Scotch tape. It'll come right off. And I only moved the speakers they could reach. Those things are heavy. What if one fell on Nathan? I'm doing you a favor here, Michael. Imagine if something happened to one of the kids in your house. The liability alone. Liability in my own home during their uninvited visit. You had no right, Chris. None. Bring my remote back and remove all the kids' stuff. No, the remote's in the drawer by the door. I put it up high so the kids couldn't mess with it. And the toys? Well, they're just a few things for when we visit. Is it really such a big deal to have a small basket of toys for your nephews and niece? Yes. Yes, it is. Because it's not about the toys. It's about the principle. It's about respect. It's about boundaries. I hung up and immediately changed my locks. Then I sent a group text to the family. I've changed my locks. The theater room is off limits to everyone. This is not negotiable. The responses came fast and furious. A mom. Michael, this is an overreaction. They're family. A dad. Son, you're taking this too far. Chris was just trying to help. A Chris? Wow. Just wow. Way to show your true colors. My kids love you and this is how you treat them. Jennifer, the children are going to be so hurt. They made you special drawings. I'm done explaining myself. I'm done justifying my choices in my own home. But I have this sinking feeling that this isn't over. Not by a long shot. Update 2. 6 weeks later. I debated whether to write this update because honestly, I'm exhausted. Physically, emotionally, mentally exhausted. But I need to document this if only to maintain my sanity. After I changed the locks, things were quiet for about 2 weeks. No family dinners. No surprise visits, just blessed silence. I thought maybe they'd gotten the message. I was wrong. It started with Mom calling me at work. She never calls me at work unless it's an emergency. Michael, your father's in the hospital. My heart stopped. What? What happened? Chest pains. We're at St. Mary's. The doctors are running tests. I left immediately. Drove to the hospital in a panic. When I arrived, I found Dad sitting up in bed, looking perfectly fine, chatting with Chris and Jennifer. The kids were there too, playing on tablets. Dad, how are you feeling? He looked sheepish. Oh, Michael, it was just indigestion. Your mother overreacted. Mom jumped in quickly. Well, you can never be too careful at our age. Besides, it's nice to have the whole family together, isn't it? The whole family together in a hospital room for indigestion. Since we're all here, Chris started. And I knew immediately where this was going. Maybe we should talk about the elephant in the room. Michael, the kids have been asking why they can't visit Uncle Mike's house anymore. What am I supposed to tell them? Tell them the truth, that Uncle Mike needs his space respected. Ashley looked up from her tablet. Uncle Mike, can we watch Frozen in your movie room? My heart broke a little. I love these kids, but I couldn't let emotional manipulation win. Maybe someday, sweetheart, but not right now. Mom's face hardened. You see, you're hurting the children, Michael. Over what? Some electronics. It's not about the electronics, Mom. It's about respect. Boundaries. We know, Chris interrupted. You've made that crystal clear. But what about respecting your family? What about our boundaries? You think it doesn't hurt that my kids aren't welcome in their uncle's home? They're welcome in my home, just not in the theater room. Same difference, Jennifer muttered. The discussion continued for another hour with Dad occasionally clutching his chest when I tried to leave, miraculously feeling better whenever I sat back down. I finally escaped when visiting hours ended. 2 days later, I got a call from my insurance company. Someone had filed a claim against my homeowner's policy. The claim Nathan had allegedly been injured in my home during a visit. I was livid. I called Chris immediately. "Oh, that," he said casually. "Yeah, Nathan scraped his knee when we were there last month. Jennifer thinks it was on one of your speaker stands. We took him to urgent care just to be safe. Don't worry, insurance will cover it. Nathan was never supposed to be in that room. You were trespassing. Trespassing in my brother's house with a key my mother gave me. Good luck with that argument." I spent the next week dealing with insurance adjusters, providing statements and proving that any injury occurred during unauthorized access to my home. The claim was eventually dismissed, but the message was clear. Chris was playing hardball. Then came the real estate listings. Mom started forwarding me emails. "Look at this lovely 4-bedroom in Chris's school district. Perfect for a family." Another, "This one has a mother-in-law suite. Wouldn't that be nice for when I visit?" I ignored them until she sent one with a subject line, "Perfect compromise." The listing was for a house 5 minutes from Chris. The description specifically mentioned a bonus room perfect for children's playroom or home theater. Mom had added her own note. "You could have both, a nice living room TV for you and a playroom for when the kids visit." I responded with one line, "I'm not moving." Her response came within minutes. "Your selfishness is tearing this family apart. Last weekend was my birthday, 31. I planned a quiet day. Maybe watch a movie in my theater. Yes, I'm still using it and it's still glorious. Order some good food." Instead, I woke up to my doorbell ringing incessantly. The entire family was on my doorstep with a cake and presents and a very official-looking document in Chris's hand. "Happy birthday, son," Dad said, looking genuinely happy to see me. "Can we come in?" What could I say? It was my birthday. They were my family. I let them in. We had cake in the kitchen. The kids gave me homemade cards which were actually sweet. Mom had made my favorite cookies. For a moment, it felt normal, like the family we used to be. Then Chris cleared his throat. "So Michael, Jennifer, and I have been thinking, and we have a proposal." He handed me the document. It was a rental agreement. "Hear me out," he said, quickly seeing my face. "We've been approved for a house, but we need to save more for the down payment. If we could rent your theater room, just the room, for 6 months, it would really help us out. We'd pay fair market value, of course." I stared at the contract. They wanted to rent my theater room to use as a playroom. $4,500 a month. "You're joking. It's a win-win," Jennifer chimed in. "You'd get extra income. We'd have a safe space for the kids while we house hunt, and it's only temporary. Plus," Mom added, "it would show that you're willing to compromise. That family means something to you." The answer is no. The room erupted. Chris accused me of sabotaging his children's future. Mom actually cried about how she'd failed as a mother to raise such a selfish son. Dad just shook his head and muttered about kids these days. Jennifer gathered up the children, making sure to loudly tell them that Uncle Mike doesn't want you here. They left my birthday cake half-eaten on the counter and slammed the door on their way out. That was 3 days ago. I've received exactly 0 apologies, but approximately 30 guilt trip texts. Chris has started posting on Facebook about the importance of family and how some people value possessions over people. Mom comments on every post with prayer hands emojis. I'm starting to wonder if I'm going crazy. Is it really so unreasonable to want to keep my theater room as a theater? Am I really the villain in this story? But then I sit in my carefully crafted space, start up a movie in perfect 4K with surround sound that makes my soul sing, and I remember this is mine. I built it. I earned it, and I'll be damned if I let anyone take it away. Update 3 2 months later. I need to warn you up front. This update is going to be long. The amount of manipulation, deception, and absolute insanity that has transpired over the past 2 months has been staggering. I've started keeping a journal just to document everything on the advice of my lawyer. Yes, I had to get a lawyer. It started about a week after the birthday fiasco. I came home from work to find a for sale sign in my front yard. Not just any sign, a professional real estate sign from a major agency complete with a box of flyers. I ripped it out of the ground and called the number on the sign. The agent who answered was chipper and enthusiastic. "Oh yes, the Morrison property. Your mother said you'd be calling. She wanted to surprise you with our services. We specialize in quick sales to help families upgrade to more suitable homes. My mother doesn't own this property. I do, and it's not for sale." The agent was mortified, apologized profusely, and promised to speak with my mother about the misunderstanding. Within an hour, I had texts from Mom. It was just to see what interest there might be. "Knowledge is power, Michael. Don't you want to know what your house is worth?" I blocked her number for a week after that. But the real escalation came when I started finding issues with my theater equipment. First, my projector wouldn't turn on. I checked all the connections. Everything was fine. After an hour of troubleshooting, I discovered the HDMI cable had been swapped with a damaged one. The original cable was nowhere to be found. Then my receiver started having issues. Random channels would cut out. The Atmos speakers weren't being recognized. I spent a weekend recalibrating everything only to have the same issues crop up again the following week. I installed security cameras, interior ones, specifically focused on the theater room entrances. What I discovered made my blood run cold. My neighbor Robert, the one I trusted with my plants, had been letting Chris into my house. The footage showed them entering together. Robert staying downstairs, while Chris went up to the theater room. This had happened at least 4 times in the past month. I confronted Robert immediately. His response was infuriating. Your brother said you were having family issues and that he needed to check on some equipment you were storing for him. He said you were being stubborn about it because of some argument. I figured it was between you guys, and you didn't think to call me to verify. He's your brother, man. And he had your mom on speakerphone confirming the story. Was I supposed to call you at work over family drama? I showed him the footage of Chris swapping cables and messing with my equipment. Robert went pale. Holy Michael, I had no idea. I'm so sorry. I didn't press charges against Robert. He'd been manipulated too. But I did file a police report against Chris for breaking and entering and vandalism. That's when things went nuclear. The family group chat exploded. Messages I wasn't even part of anymore were screenshotted and sent to me by my cousin Sarah, the only family member who seemed to think I wasn't insane. Mom, he's trying to put his own brother in jail over some wires. Chris, I was trying to help. His system wasn't child safe. I was making improvements. Jennifer, this is what happens when you prioritize things over people. Mental illness is serious. Dad, we need to have an intervention. This obsession with his toys has gone too far. An intervention. They were planning an intervention for me because I wanted to protect my property. The police took my report seriously, especially with the video evidence. A detective called Chris, who apparently broke down and admitted to everything, but claimed it was a family matter and that he was trying to help. The detective warned him that any further unauthorized entry would result in arrest. You'd think that would be the end of it. You'd be wrong. 2 weeks later, I got a call from my HR department. Someone had called claiming to be concerned about my mental health and suggesting I might be a danger to myself or others. They'd specifically mentioned my obsession with isolation and aggressive behavior towards children. Thankfully, my boss knows me well. We've worked together for 5 years. He called me and showed me the anonymous complaint and asked if everything was okay. I broke down and told him the whole story. He was appalled. Michael, this is harassment. You need to get a restraining order and we're going to trace this complaint. Anonymous doesn't mean untraceable. Turns out the complaint came from a burner email, but it traced the IP to a coffee shop near Chris's work. Coincidence? I think not. I hired a lawyer that day. Her name is Amanda Chen, and she specializes in family law and harassment cases. When I laid out everything, the unauthorized entry, the insurance fraud attempt, the vandalism, the workplace harassment, she just shook her head. This is one of the most clear-cut cases of familial harassment I've seen. Your brother is trying to force you out of your home through a campaign of escalating harassment. We need to act fast. We sent cease and desist letters to Chris, Jennifer, and my parents. The letters outlined all documented incidents and made it clear that any further contact outside of emergencies would be considered harassment and dealt with accordingly. Mom called me crying, not texted, called. I almost didn't answer, but Amanda had advised me to record any interactions. Michael, how could you? We're your family. You're choosing things over blood. Mom, Chris has been breaking into my house. He tried to file a false insurance claim. He called my workplace. This isn't about choosing things over family. It's about criminal behavior. Criminal. He's your brother. He made some mistakes because he loves his children and wants what's best for them, and you want to ruin his life over it. He's trying to ruin mine. Mom, when does it stop? When he successfully gets me fired? When my equipment is destroyed? When I'm forced to sell my house? Don't be dramatic. He just wants to use one room. One room. Michael, you have a whole house, and he has his own house where his children live, where he can create any kind of playroom he wants. She hung up on me. The cease and desist letters seemed to work for about a week. Then I started getting calls from various contractors. Apparently, I'd requested quotes for converting a bonus room into a child-safe play space. One contractor even showed up at my door with measurements and samples, saying Chris had given him a key and told him I was at work. I sent all of this to Amanda, who sent another more strongly worded letter. This time, she included mentions of potential criminal charges and civil lawsuits. That's when Chris made his biggest mistake. I came home from a weekend trip to find my theater room destroyed, and I mean destroyed. The screen had been cut with what looked like a box cutter. My speakers were on the ground, some with damaged cones. The projector was hanging from its mount at an odd angle, and spray painted on the wall in red family first. But Chris didn't know about all my cameras. The new ones, the hidden ones, HD night vision motion activated, uploading directly to the cloud. I had him full video of Chris breaking in through a basement window carrying a baseball bat and spray paint. Video of him systematically destroying thousands of dollars of equipment while Jennifer stood watch. I called 911 immediately. Then Amanda. Then I sat in my destroyed sanctuary and cried. Chris was arrested that night. Jennifer too, though she was released on her own recognizance. Chris spent the night in jail before Mom and Dad bailed him out. The family explosion was atomic. My phone rang non-stop. Texts, calls, emails, even LinkedIn messages from extended family. The narrative was that I had destroyed the family and ruined the children's lives by having their father arrested. But here's the thing. I have the videos, I have the documentation, I have a lawyer, and I'm done. Chris is facing charges for breaking and entering vandalism, over $5,000 in criminal mischief. The prosecution is taking it seriously, especially given the documented pattern of escalation. My insurance is covering the equipment damage, but some things can't be replaced. The acoustic treatments I spent weeks installing, the custom calibration, the memories of building this space with my own hands. But you know what? I'm rebuilding better this time, with a security system that would make Fort Knox jealous, and a restraining order that keeps Chris, Jennifer, and my parents at least 500 feet away from me and my property. Because this was never about a room. It was about control, about entitlement, about the belief that my life, my choices, my space should all be subordinate to what they think is best. Family first. The family I'm building for myself, the friends who supported me, the colleagues who've had my back, the online strangers who validated that I'm not crazy. That's my real family now. Final update 4 months later. This will be my last update on this situation. Not because it's resolved. These things never really resolve when family is involved, but because I've reached a place of peace with it all. Well, mostly. Chris took a plea deal, 18 months probation, 200 hours of community service, and $12,000 in restitution to be paid over 2 years. His lawyer argued that he was under extreme stress due to financial pressures and family expectations. The judge wasn't entirely sympathetic, but acknowledged this was his first offense. The restraining order remains in place. Chris, Jennifer, and my parents are not allowed within 500 feet of me or my property. This has made family gatherings impossible, which honestly feels like a blessing at this point. But here's where things get interesting, and why I needed to write this final update. Last month, I got a call from Sarah, my cousin. She'd been following the saga from the sidelines, occasionally sending me supportive messages, but mostly staying out of the drama. She asked if we could meet for coffee. Michael, there's something you need to know about the house situation with Chris. Turns out, Chris and Jennifer had never been approved for a house. The supposed rental property they were going to buy didn't exist. Sarah had done some digging after the arrest and found out they were actually behind on rent at their current place. The whole story about needing my theater room to save money for a down payment was a lie. But that's not the worst part, Sarah continued. Aunt Patricia knew. Your mom knew the whole time. My coffee went cold. As Sarah explained, she'd overheard Mom and Jennifer talking at a family function months ago. The plan was to slowly take over my theater room, establish the kids' presence there, then use that as leverage to convince me to either let them move in temporarily or guilt me into helping with their financial troubles more directly. They figured once the kids were used to the space, you'd never have the heart to kick them out. And if you did, they'd paint you as the villain who traumatized children by taking away their playroom. The theater room was never about the kids needing space. It was about Chris needing money and Mom believing I should be supporting my brother because family helps family. I wish I could say I was shocked, but honestly, it all made sense. The escalation, the manipulation, the involvement of my parents from day one. This was a coordinated effort to redistribute what they saw as my excess wealth to Chris. Why are you telling me this now? I asked Sarah. Because they're planning something else. I don't know what. But I heard Aunt Patricia on the phone with someone about alternative approaches and legal options regarding Michael's assets. I think you need to be careful. I thanked Sarah and immediately called Amanda. She suggested I review all my legal documents. Will power of attorney beneficiaries on accounts? Sure enough, I discovered something disturbing. My parents were still listed as beneficiaries on several old accounts and had power of attorney if I became incapacitated. I changed everything that day, updated my will, removed them from all accounts assigned power of attorney to Amanda, and made sure every legal avenue they might use to access my assets was closed. 2 weeks later, I found out what their alternative approach was. I received a letter from a lawyer representing my parents. They were suing me for emotional distress and alienation of familial affection. They claimed my aggressive pursuit of legal action against Chris had caused them severe emotional trauma, leading to Dad's high blood pressure and Mom's new anxiety medication needs. But the real kicker was their proposed settlement. They would drop the lawsuit if I agreed to family mediation with a therapist of their choosing to repair the damaged relationships and establish healthy boundaries. Translation: they wanted to force me back into contact to resume their campaign. Amanda laughed when she read the letter. This is what we call a nuisance lawsuit. They have no case, but they're hoping you'll settle to avoid the hassle. We're not going to do that. We countersued for harassment and intentional infliction of emotional distress. Our case was much stronger given the documented pattern of behavior, the criminal conviction, and the restraining orders. Last week, their lawyer contacted Amanda. They wanted to drop everything. Their lawsuit fighting our countersuit, all of it. The condition: I had to agree not to pursue any further legal action and to keep the settlement confidential. Here's what I got. $50,000 from my parents' retirement account for my pain and suffering, or an agreement that they would never contest the restraining orders. A written acknowledgement that they have no claim to my property or assets, or a mutual non-disclosure agreement, which I'm technically violating by writing this. But they'll never know, since they're blocked on everything. But here's what I really got. Freedom, peace, the knowledge that I stood up for myself and won. My theater room has been fully rebuilt. I upgraded to an even better projector, the Sony PLVW915ES. The new screen is acoustically transparent, allowing me to place speakers behind it for an even more immersive experience. I added 2 more subwoofers, because why not? The whole system is now controlled by a Savant home automation system with multiple user profiles and security features. Last weekend, I hosted a movie marathon for my real family, the friends who supported me through this insanity. We watched the extended edition Lord of the Rings trilogy in full 4K glory. During the scene where Theoden says, "How did it come to this?" I couldn't help but laugh. 6 months ago, Chris called my theater wasted space. Mom dismissed it as adult toys. They saw my passion as something frivolous, something that should be sacrificed for their vision of family. But here's what they never understood. This room isn't just about movies. It's about having something that's mine. It's about the right to live my life on my terms. It's about the hours I work to afford it, the skills I learned to build it, and the joy it brings me every single day. They tried to take that away. They failed. To those who said I was being too harsh, that family should come first. Family doesn't mean being a doormat. Love doesn't mean sacrificing your identity. And forgiveness doesn't mean allowing toxic people continued access to your life. To those who supported me, who shared their own stories of family entitlement and boundary violations, thank you. You kept me sane when I thought I was losing my mind. And to anyone reading this who's dealing with similar family dynamics, document everything. Stand your ground. Get legal help. And remember, no is a complete sentence. My theater room is quiet now. No unexpected visitors, no sticky fingers on screens, no toys in corners. Just me, my movies, and the peace of knowing I protected what matters to me, Chris and his family. I hear through Sarah that they're living with Jennifer's parents now after being evicted from their rental. The kids are fine. They have plenty of space to play at their grandparents' house. Turns out they didn't need my theater room after all. Mom and Dad, they've reportedly told extended family that I died in a car accident, rather than admit they have a living son who won't speak to them. I'm oddly okay with being dead to them. As for me, I'm planning to build a small addition to the house, a dedicated gaming room, because why not? It's my house, my money, my life. And I've learned that the best revenge against those who try to control your choices is to simply keep making them. The screen lights up, the speakers come alive, and I sink into my perfectly calibrated sanctuary. This is my happy ending. Roll credits. Roll.